Hey guys, it's been a while since I've made a video the last time. I think it was like the first that I made a video, and I look super tired. um, right now it is 11:47 at night, and I have to go to work in the morning. Today is the night, and I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do this, how I want to finish or go ahead and start the next step or whatever. Um, But I guess I'll go ahead and talk about how um, I don't know if I talked about in my last video. I tried watching it, but it's too long. But I started dating my boyfriend. We got together October 7th, 1995, and we um, we ended up, well, actually, I ended up moving in with him on, I think it was, we were together 3 months, and I moved in with him. My mom and I were having disagreements, and it was kind of hard. I, I didn't want to keep putting stress on my mom, but I know moving out, running away was not the best way to do that. So, but anyway, I ended up leaving home when I was 13, moved in with him after we were together for 3 months, and his mother, took care of me. She provided me with clothes and food and all that good stuff, and um, I'm very fortunate to have such a great mother-in-law. Um, well, we dated, like I said, for 3 months. Ended up finding out that I was pregnant. We went to the store and got a pregnancy test. I think three of them because we were in denial. With me being, I just turned 14 and him being 16, it was something that we were not prepared for. But we talked to his mom, and his mom, you know, told us whatever our decision was, she would definitely stand behind us no matter what. So, um, of course, when you're that young, you hear nothing but, you need to have an abortion. Don't bring a child into this world. You're going to make them suffer. You know, what if something happens? You're going to have a horrible pregnancy. And it was really hard on me, and it was really hard on my boyfriend. And nobody, well, I don't know, nobody believed in us, I guess I should say. Um, but I mean, how can you have that much trust in someone with them being just turned 14 and 16? Um, but I remember I was scared to death to tell my mom and my dad. I did not know how I was going to tell them, but I called my mom one day and I told her that I had some stomach problems and I needed to go to the doctor. So I figured, hey, I'm gonna let someone else tell her, so I don't have to. So first thing out of her mouth was, "You're pregnant." I was like, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not, Mom. Just I need to go to the doctor." And we were in the doctor's office. My boyfriend went with me for support. Kind of love that. And um, he stayed in the waiting room while my mom and I went into the back, and um, the doctor came in and he looked at me and he said, "Do you want to tell her or do you want me to tell her?" And I looked at him and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Playing it off, but I didn't do a very good job. And he looks at my mom and says, "Well, she's pregnant." And my mom screamed my name, top of her lungs. The whole building heard her. I busted into tears and I ran out to the waiting room where my boyfriend was at, and he just held me and he said, "It's going to be okay. We'll get through this just like everything else. It's going to be okay." So I went back in the room um, and talked to my mom, and the ride home was very awkward. I remember just sitting there not wanting to say a word because I was scared of what she was going to say when we actually got alone. But she played it cool. She was very Um, I wouldn't say happy, but she was just relieved. Um, not even relieved, really. Just kind of numb to it, I guess. And she asked me if I was hungry, and I really could not think about eating at that time because I was so nervous. And I still had to tell my dad, and now I knew that it was reality. I wasn't just having bad pregnancy tests. So, anyway, 14 and pregnant. Wow. Looking back on it now, it's crazy. Very, very scary. Um, so I got home, back to my boyfriend's house. My mom dropped me off, gave me a hug, told me that she loved me, and that, everything was going to be okay. Um, and I knew that I still had to tell my dad. That was my dad, let me tell you. 6'3", about almost 300 pounds. Reminds me of The Undertaker, the wrestler. Very intimidating. And my boyfriend was very intimidated. And he's not a little scrawny man himself. But I called the house and I was talking to my stepmom and I told her, and she's like, "Well, honey, probably be a good idea for me to tell your dad and just give him a couple days to process everything and then call him back." So I was like, "Okay, I don't have to do it. Okay." So sorry, wait a minute from. So she told my dad, and a couple days passed by, and I was like, "Well, let me call him, see how mad he is at me." And I called, and he was like, "I'm very disappointed that you actually got pregnant, but what's done is done. There's nothing I can do about it. Um, I'm too young to be a grandfather, but you know what's done is done." So I was kind of relieved. But as soon as he said that he was disappointed in me, I started crying. Cause that's the last thing I wanted to do was disappoint my parents. But you know, like he said, what's done is already done. There's nothing else we can do about it. Um, told my grandparents and some. I I kept hearing, "You need to have an abortion. I'll pay for it. You don't need to go through this. You're too young. You're going to ruin your life. You're not going to graduate. You're not going to have any future of your own." But I stayed strong, and my boyfriend helped me through that 100%. So if it wasn't for him, I would have never made it as far as I did. And, you know, I was very fortunate. But so I remember going to doctor's appointments. I was still going to school. My boyfriend was still going to school. And one day I ended up going to a teen pregnancy, um, was it a teen pregnancy school or something, where nothing but a bunch of pregnant women in this school, pregnant girls, teenage girls. So it was hormone central. My gosh, you have no idea. Um, but I did my work, and, and what's funny is that a lot of people say that when you're pregnant, you're not. I guess the baby sucks up everything. You're not smart anymore. You can't think. You can't process things. But I was making straight A's. I was doing really good in school, and tell you what, man, I was really smart. But anyway, remember I was reading a book, and it was a pregnancy book, and it was talking about how um, there was this, I wouldn't call it a disease, but there was a condition where, excuse me, you would have sharp pains in the top of your stomach. And I'm reading, I'm like, well, dang, I've been having sharp pains on top of my stomach. Maybe I should go to the doctor just in case. So I'm in middle school, call my dad. I'm like, Dad, I need to go home so I can go to the doctor to get checked out because I was reading this book. And no, I didn't say that. I said, I think I might have toxemia. And he was like, what, did you read that in the book? I'm like, Dad, no, I'm serious. Well, yeah, I did read in a book, but that's not why I think I have it. Because everybody said I was a hypochondriac, blah, blah, blah. But, anyway. So he's like, you're going to stay in school. You're not going to go leave school to go to the hospital. So I called my boyfriend's mom and I told her. She was like, well, you take a cab and go to the hospital, or she'd come and pick me up or something. I don't know. Anyway, I went to the hospital. They did some tests and they were like, you do have toxemia. I was like, oh, nice. So here I am, 6 months pregnant. I have toxemia, which is very dangerous for me and for the baby. And at this, let's see, I just turned 15. Like, I got pregnant. I was, my birthday was in July, and I just turned 15, and this was the beginning of September, and middle of September. Yeah, middle of September. And they said that they had to keep me to keep an eye on the situation to make sure that it did not um, increase or get worse or whatever, because if they did, they would have to take the baby. And the baby was not going to be fully developed, underweight, have lung problems, hearing problems, um, possible brain damage. Well, not brain damage, but the brain would not be fully developed. Um, so I was very scared. And they had me hooked up to, I cannot even count the amount of monitors that they had me hooked up on. But I remember being in there for, I started off in one hospital where I wanted to have her, and I was there for, I think, 2 weeks nonstop in the hospital, 2 weeks straight. And they they told me that the condition was getting worse and I needed to go to another hospital that was specialized in premature babies. That way, when she is born, they're, they would have the right equipment to take care of her. So they, my first ride in the ambulance. They packed me up and sent me to another hospital, which that's where I really wanted to have my baby because that's where I was born. But we, I got there. My boyfriend would stay with me the whole time. We were in the room, and this was going on 3 weeks that I was in the hospital, and he needed to go back to school because it was getting towards the end of the school, and he needed to go back. Even his teachers gave him schoolwork and stuff like that, so he wouldn't miss out on a lot. But he really needed to go back. So on September 30th, um, he went back to school. I think it was Monday. He That was his first day back to school, and we were there 3 weeks. And I remember it was the first time that he left me, and oh gosh, they woke me up really early in the morning and was like, "We need to get your weight." So they weighed me. Now let me tell you, I weighed 195 pounds. Sorry, 145 pounds before I got pregnant, and they weighed me on September 30th, and I weighed 214 pounds. I was horrified. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. I was